Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto was female Orochimaru's target, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Tap, tap, tap. No other sounds could be heard from the Hokage's office but Tsunade's slow, deliberate taps. The office was full, her Anbu detail hidden in the shadows, Jiraiya standing at her side, Shibi Aburame and Shikaku Nara standing behind their sons. And, most importantly, the three vexing brats, two standing at attention, the last in clear defiance. A part of her wanted to wring their little necks, strutting into her office and abducting an asset and then disappearing the body. The Hyuga and Inuzuka Anbu present at the scene hadn't reported any sign of Kabuto. It was an excellent display of tradecraft. The ninja in her was impressed. But they completely undermined a future operation, one of unknown significance. Maybe she should point them eastward and send them on a campaign of conquest, mandating none of them could see their respective girlfriends until Kumo fell. That would be adequate retaliation. She fought back a smirk, reasoning it'd probably take them a month. Then she observed the Nara, noticing he seemed twitchy for a Nara and recalled the last time Temari had been within the village. The godime knocked her estimate down to 2 weeks. Jiraiya called out, likely afraid that her silence was just the build-up to an epic tantrum. How do you three want to play this? Sure. You covered your tracks so there is no evidence, but last I checked, I'm not military police and don't require any. Or, better yet, the lack of evidence is surely evidence in itself. So, you want to play the denial game or you want to cut the shit and confess? Tsunade asked. Before they answer, Tsunade-sama, we feel we must point out that Kabuto Yakushi had made an attempt on their lives once before, Shikaku started. I'm aware, Tsunade responded. The Sandaime saw fit not to take official action against him, she finished in disgust. Yes, he refused official action but never forbade the inflicted clans from seeking retribution. As I am sure you are aware, should a Konoha ninja ever attempt to target a clan ninja, the clans are empowered to seek retribution proportional to the offense. If this clause is to be ignored, it must be done by official decree and due compensation must be given to the targeted parties and their respective clans, Shibi explained. Furthermore, Shikaku picked up, the Sandaime's refusal to punish Kabuto and his decision to hide the traitor's actions could be taken as another attempt by the Sandaime to interfere in the internal workings of the Uzumaki clan as Naruto was the primary target. The Sandaime may have wanted Kabuto to try again, hoping for success so he'd have much weaker and potentially more pliable members to manipulate. So, your argument is whether or not they did it, they had the right to do it because Sensei didn't fill out the proper paperwork. Jiraiya asked in mild disbelief. Yes, Shibi answered. His response was met with a sigh from the blonde Hokage. She should have known, with both clan heads being in the tower before their sons had even arrived, that the boys had figured some way out trouble should they be brought in. It was a deft use of politics and if she ignored their arguments it'd cause a strain between her and two parties she couldn't afford to alienate. As Sensei hadn't notified you of Kabuto's actions nor taken the proper steps to forestall any retaliatory efforts, I have no choice but to close this matter, but please be aware of my great displeasure. Maybe you had a right to do what you did but it doesn't make it right. I hope we can live with the consequences of your actions. Everyone, save Jiraiya and Naruto, is dismissed. The Nara and the Aburame vacated, both Shika and Shino giving Naruto's shoulders a friendly squeeze before they left. He was alone now. I'm mad at your teammates but I am deeply disappointed in you, Tsunade said and had to ignore the twinge of pain she felt when Naruto's face seemed genuinely hurt by her words for the briefest of moments. Before you say anything, I know Kabuto tried to kill your team. I know he was likely going to try again and maybe it is unfair I expected you to just accept he still had a use, but he did. He was our best chance to get Zetsu and you took him off the table entirely. Not only that, but you should have trusted that I wouldn't let any harm come to you. You couldn't promise that, Naruto argued. You had no idea how he'd try, what he'd do and when he'd spring his trap. Him out of the village was one thing but this place is either my home or it isn't. The old man couldn't seem to decide or just didn't give a shit too. I thought you'd be different. What is that supposed to mean? Tsunade asked as he was now her turn to be hurt. I know what it is to go to sleep surrounded by enemies, to only have a degree of safety because someone I couldn't trust was holding the leash on people who'd see me harmed if they could. I can't allow that now, and certainly not someone that close to Orochi. Tsunade's eyes lit up in realization. It wasn't just revenge or fear for himself. I get it, Naruto, she said with a soft smile, I do. But you could have cleared it with me instead of trying to get away with it. I believe you'll sit in this chair one day, but when you do, I want you to make being Hokage admirable again. Sensei's last years tarnished things, and I'm widely seen as a placeholder. I don't mind, it's more or less true. But if you want to be like the Hokage of old, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. Naruto nodded and Tsunade dismissed him. Once he walked out the door, Tsunade made an exaggerated groan. There are several things to dislike about this job, but the hypocrisy may be the thing I hate the most, Tsunade complained as Jiraiya took a seat in front of her. Jiraiya laughed in response. Yay, if it had been you, we'd be picking up pieces of Kabuto from across the village, Jiraiya said, acknowledging her legendary temper. But you made a good point about Naruto holding himself to a higher standard, so it isn't outright hypocrisy, and I think he loves his surrogate aunt enough that any adolescent surliness was stamped down. My concern is, what are we going to do for the next several months? Minato went AWOL to save Kushina, and she wasn't pregnant at the time. Oh, he told you? Tsunade asked, not really surprised that Jiraiya knew, but became so when he shook his head no. I'm not a perfect sage, but I can sense everything the kid can, and Orochi's little bun wasn't hard to pick up. I'm sure Sensei doesn't know yet, but you need to let me know when he does. You can't protect him from himself, Jiraiya, nor should you be expected to. It isn't so much about protecting him as preventing the most harm I can. Prevention is better than treatment, but Sensei doesn't want to let this go. Unfortunately, whatever my fondness for him is, Orochi and Naruto are the more valuable assets. If I have to fix the problems he creates, you need to understand what my solution will be. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade in shock. You'd kill Sensei? He asked. His obsession with Orochi has put this village at risk, Jiraiya, multiple times. He allowed Nagato to attack within the village's walls. He let a double agent act freely within the village. He could have caused Naruto to, if we were lucky, go missing ninja, and if we weren't lucky, I don't want to think about the results. And if I hadn't left that loophole open, who knows what Team Kerr and I would have done to get at Kabuto, consequences be damned. Wait, you knew they were going to try something? No. But of course I suspected they might. What kind of ninja would just accept someone trying to kill them and got away with it? It wasn't just an assassination attempt. Extracting a biju can't possibly be a painless nor fast process. As soon as I knew Kabuto turned, I could have bought off the 3 clans. This was a contingency, one I hoped I wouldn't need, but here we are. You're more devious than people give you credit for. I'm a lady of many faces. Oh, really? You should feel free to show me your, face anytime. Jiraiya didn't even mind the punch that followed as he noticed a slight pink to Tsunade's cheeks. No, it was totally worth it. Shikamaru thought once he left the Hokage's office he'd dealt with the only irate woman he'd have to for the day. His mother standing before him, hands on hips and fiercest glare on display told him as much. He couldn't even find her troublesome, as he was much more annoyed that his father turned snitch and continued to let that woman run him. Well? Yoshino asked. Well, what? Shikamaru returned and received a slap on the head. Ow, he muttered. Don't get a smart mouth with me, Shikamaru Nara, and don't pretend to not know what I'm asking. Troublesome, whatever may have happened and whatever role I may or may not have played in it was necessary. Do better, commanded his father. When the panther cub came to him and explained what he'd need to do, Shikaku was genuinely confused. That he'd seemingly lost time did nothing to aid in that. I defended you to Tsunade-sama, so we deserve the truth. And you did a job on our clan grounds. Yoshino reminded her husband. Yay, and that was reckless, son, Shikaku observed, hiding his surprise when his son seemed to get offended. Was it? You find any bodies lying about? Shika asked, only to receive another slap. Ow. Damn it. Ow. Don't curse at me. Shikaku, this is your fault. You were too lenient on him and now he's on the wrong path. Yoshino, please calm down and let Shikamaru explain. Seeing this as his opening, and an implicit order to do just that, Shikamaru explained, the actions we took today could have prevented a catastrophe from occurring later. It also prevented Shino and me from having to make some hard choices. This was for the best. Neither parent missed that Shika said only Shino and he would have the choices, but neither wanted to push much further. While the events of the day didn't inspire a lot of confidence, they knew their son to be an intelligent and practical person, generally. If this allowed him to avoid future peril, then it would, ultimately, be worth it. Yoshino, satisfied with her reaming, headed toward the kitchen. Believing she was out of earshot, Shikaku brought up the three boys' stated willingness to face the Anbu sent to detain them. Yoshino, however, had not been outside of listening distance and became incensed once more. Naruto entered his home with a sigh. His exchange with Tsunade hadn't eased his mental strain. Nothing would short of a nap, but he had to press forward. As he kicked off his sandals, he saw a pair that belonged to his betrothed. He didn't miss that she was absent from the Hokage's office. That could be for several reasons, and his taxed mind didn't have it to churn through. Being direct was the best option. Even if she should be mad, he killed Kabuto. Naruto exited the foyer, walking through the manor, and found her in the kitchen, eating cake out of a teal pastry box at the counter. Hey, Orochi-chan, whatcha got there? He asked. She favored him with a smile as she turned on her stool. Cake. Specifically, the flavor of our wedding cake, she said. I missed the tasting. He asked, disappointed that he knew the answer before she replied. Damn, I wanted to be there for that. Kikuku, it's fine, Koharu and I came to a decision and I am quite pleased. Besides, you were busy. Yay. About that, anything you'd like to discuss? You can call down storms and cast village-wide genjutsu. I'm dismayed at how much you held back, and as soon as I'm no longer pregnant, I'm getting a proper rematch, Orochi informed him. Naruto smiled, retrieving a fork. Sure. Whatever you want, he said as he sat beside her and attempted to sink his utensil into the cake. It passed through the baked good as if it never existed. Naruto squinted at Orochi. This isn't really big enough to share. I'm sure you understand, she said with a devious smile. Shouldn't I know what kind of cake is being served on my special day? Naruto asked. You could have. You decided to carry out an assassination with your friends. Did you even send out the invitations, as you were supposed to? Orochi asked, touching his cheek, a sign she'd ended Kamui. Gasp, milady. I had my cubs out informing all of our upcoming nuptials, Naruto answered, again attempting to take a piece of her cake slice, the result being the same as the initial try. And you're fitting? She inquired before taking a bite. Taken care of, Shino's guy is efficient, he said, once again trying to sneak a piece, only for Orochi to turn away from him. Dear, we're supposed to share in all things, yeah, no. Don't wanna, get your own, Orochi said as she migrated to the table. Fine, what's the flavor so I can get it? He asked. Not telling, besides this was made special for the tasting so there isn't any more. And you won't share. No one can accuse you of being slow on the uptake, Naruto-kun. The Uzumaki smiled at her barb. I'll just have to take it then, he said as he blurred behind her, speedily reaching for his prize only to meet with the table. Kikuku, nice try, Orochi said as she seemingly phased through the windows out to the back of the compound. Undaunted, Naruto flashed to the shiki engraved on her engagement ring as soon as she ended the jutsu, swiping his prize. Preparing to gloat, the words died as he watched Orochi extended her tongue to get the last of the cake. Body modifications are cheating, he said, pointing at Orochi. She pointed to herself as she said, ninja, and nothing else. Naruto laughed but refused to concede the point. As he got his laughter under control, he ran a hand through his hair. He didn't want to sour the mood, but avoidance had never been his thing. Orochi-chan, do we need to talk about Kabuto? What is there to talk about? She asked, speaking again before Naruto could answer. Kabuto was talented. I nurtured his talent because I saw he could be of use. I even started to like him. But Kabuto had two fatal flaws. He lacked the strength to be himself outside of my influence, and he froze me in his mind. I don't like stagnation, not in the world and not in myself. He couldn't handle my recent changes and crossed a line he couldn't come back from. And my hand in his removal? Naruto inquired. As I assume you were motivated by my current state and I made that happen, it'd be silly to be upset with you. Hey, I was pretty crucial in making that happen, too, Tobayo. Of course, sweetie, you're my big, strong man, Orochi said sarcastically and was confused when Naruto beamed with pride. I know you're making fun of me, but I am your big, strong man, so ha. Joke's on you. Laying the cake box down, Orochi glided toward Naruto and wrapped her arms around his waist when she arrived. Smiling, she looked up to her intended and leaned in. Naruto copied her without much thought. He did not receive the kiss he'd expected. When he committed to leaning forward, Orochi turned her hips into him and tossed him to the ground, landing in a full mount as she looked down. Kikuku, you were saying. Orochi teased. This doesn't count, Naruto protested, Orochi adopting a look of disbelief as her response. Naruto rolled his eyes as he tried to sit up. Orochi had other ideas as she forced him back down. No, Naruto-kun. I like you like this, Orochi said, savoring the thrill of having the strongest shinobi in the world beneath her and at her mercy. She smiled softly as she leaned down, giving an uncharacteristically chaste kiss to her future husband. As she was going to kiss him again, her senses alerted her they were not alone, but she did not tense nor give away. She was aware. Bagheera's father and I used to rut under the midday sun, too, the voice said as she emerged from the shadow in front of Orochi. The snake Sannin was mildly confused when Naruto buried his head in her stomach. Don't be embarrassed, Naruto-chan, passion is important in a relationship even if you've already ceded her, the figure continued, now fully visible. The humanoid panther, wearing a gold and white cloak, sat before the duo with a smirk. Naruto had informed her his summons could choose to look like regular jungle cats or transform, most simply went with their preference. Hi, Granny, Naruto said, though it was muffled as he was still hiding his face. Such a lackluster greeting from my favorite summoner. What have I done, what sin have I committed to be treated with such discourtesy? With little effort Naruto was on his feet, Orochi in tow, him gently putting her down so he could look at the grand elder of the Panthers. Sorry, Granny. It is, of course, lovely to see you today. What brings you by? See, that's much better. You've come such a long way since you were that confused, little cub. Couldn't even throw a proper punch and now look at you, starting a family. I'm so proud, Naruto-chan, Bast said. Not enough to stop calling me Naruto-chan, though, and I've noticed you haven't told me why you've graced us with your presence. Oh, it's no big deal. The girls and I paid a visit to the monkeys. I know that Hiruzen has given you both some trouble in the past, so I requested Enma keep his summoner in line, Bast explained. Requested? Naruto said with a really bad feeling in his stomach. Even if I had a knife to his throat I still phrased it as a question, so I think it counts. Granny, really? Yes. You know this is partially your fault. Okoye says you don't give them enough to do, so they were ready for some action. Don't worry, we didn't kill any of the shit flingers, Bast answered. Naruto, nearing his wit's end, just wanted this to be over. Orochi found humor in the situation. Kikuku, you threatened King Enma. I like you, Bast-sama, Orochi said. Bast waved her off. None of that, Sama, stuff. We're basically family now, which reminds me you two have a ritual to complete before your wedding day. Panther tradition, Bast explained, looking down at her nails. What, Granny? I told you personally I was getting married and you didn't mention any kind of ritual. Well, I forgot. I'm old, I forget things. I don't believe you, Tobayo. Naruto exclaimed. And Naruto meant that literally. He knew she had a mind like a steel trap. A summoning clan big on vendettas would not be forgetful. Shush, Cubby, I've forgotten now I've remembered. Don't worry, Naruto-chan, it isn't as involved as when you met your father. Just a simple bonding ceremony. Granny, I can't just accept that unilaterally, I needed to know so I could talk to Orochi about it, Naruto said, but felt like he was talking to a brick wall. It's fine, Naruto-kun. We can do the ritual the day before. Does that sound fair? Orochi offered. Bast nodded in approval. You got a real keeper here, Naruto-chan, Bast said, and Naruto beamed. Yay, I think so, too. An alert sounded, signaling someone was at the front door. Naruto didn't have to guess and wasn't surprised when he arrived to see Hiruzen there. He was, mildly, surprised to see Enma, Konohamaru and the fresh from a beard waxing Asuma with him. We need to talk, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said grimly, and Naruto rolled his eyes. The Uzumaki head waved them in as he cursed Bast for making it necessary. It had been 3 weeks since Daru's return. When he left Iwa, his mind was awash in ideas on how to proceed. A part of him wanted to travel to Konoha, somehow convince Kiribi to stand up to A and get the leaf to back the transition. Darui quickly rejected the plan, Kiribi would not unseat his brother until evidence of A's incompetence revealed itself in hundreds or thousands of dead ninja. The Jinchuriki was simply too loyal to his brother to be preemptive. Another plan Darui considered was telling A what Onoki was trying. Darui had no doubt Onoki would betray him just as easily as he was willing to leave A without an ally in the first place. Darui knew Onoki had to subcontract to the Akatsuki because A refused to demilitarize and may hold some resentment for it. The former student of A also declined that option. A would either add Iwa to the list if he believed Darui or turn on the messenger as there was no trust between the two men. He thought about what he could do and eventually settled on a course of action. That decision was why he was being ushered into the Raikage's office by a team of Anbu. If he'd made a mistake, this meeting was to be the death of him, but he'd rather risk it all than sit passively as A single-handedly ruined the hidden village. When he entered the office he saw a tumbler on A's desk, a quarter full of a brown liquid. Of course, the shinobi thought. It was rare to not see A deep into a bottle. He felt bad for Mabui, as she had to absorb most of A's abuse. The Anbu scattered when the door closed behind Darui. He was alone with A, the muscled man looking furious behind his glassy eyes. I thought if you were going to attempt to depose me you'd come at me straight up. Instead, you write notes like a little girl, A barked, slamming down a copy of Daru's work. In the booklet, all of A's faults and failures were detailed. Even the Hyuga incident. Darui argued that A had brought him to the precipice of war and done so for his own ego. He asked any who would read his words to consider if they'd be willing and proud to die for that. Not for Kumo but for an arrogant manchild that wanted to upend everything to feel better about himself. Darui closed his work with a simple belief: as goes the cage goes the village. If the cage is powerful, honorable, and admirable the village would be. If the cage were vain, brutish and vapid so would the ninja. The copies, freely distributed, caused a stir. If A had been on his game he would have repressed the works immediately, but he was slow to act, a signal to all senior ninja that Darui had a point. Well, do you have anything to say? A yelled. You made this necessary. Your pride, your arrogance has led us astray and now we risk war with two major villages without any significant allies nor our two Jinchuriki. You need to step down, A. A ripped through his desk and clotheslined Darui, the younger man unprepared for the blitz. The speed and power of the move sent both men through the office door and wall, Mabui shouting in shock. A didn't stop his charge until Daru's back met another wall. As he backed off, he looked at the once trusted shinobi in disdain. If you want to replace me, boy, you're going to have to do better than th. He attempted to boast but was speared by Darui. Not mirroring A's mistake, as soon as he secured the takedown, Darui started punching A in the face with controlled aggression. He landed 3 clean blows before A could begin to defend himself. The Raikage grabbed both of Daru's arms and then, in a feat of raw strength, flung the younger man off him. Enraged as he returned to his feet, A closes the distance and traps Darui in a bear hug, finishing with a belly-to-belly suplex. Not hearing the satisfying crunch of broken ribs, A was instead splashed with water. The realization he grabbed a clone coming too slow as he struck with a flying knee. The impact was enough to lift the Raikage off the ground and Darui had no intention of letting up. Darui clasped A's arm and pulled him closer, hitting him flush in the jaw. The attack continued as fist, feet, and knees assaulted the drunken village leader. However, Darui had become too predictable in his assault and A launched his counter. Slapping both his ears, A left Darui stunned. The Yondaime palmed Daru's skull and slammed him down on the ground with enough force to fracture the floor. He did it twice more before lifting the man up and throwing him out the window. A wanted the entire village to see the fall of the usurper. He peered down at his former second-in-command with disappointment. Defeating him wouldn't be enough, he needed to break him and any future thought of resistance. A with but a thought activated his lightning armor, the symbol of Kumo's might, and appeared beside his downed opponent. A kick to the ribs started his renewed assault. Light, though. Not enough to fully crack Daru's ribs but enough to fling him across several roofs. A let Darui attempt to get to his feet. When the man was nearly there, he got lifted with a knee, the force almost enough to cause whiplash. Before Darui could be carried away from the impact he was grabbed, mid-air, and pulled into a punch to the abdomen. The Raikage let the younger man fall, watching as he coughed up blood. By now, much of the village had taken to the streets to see the fight. None were more surprised than Simui, Kamui, and Omoi, the students of Kiribi. Like most of the village's ninja, they'd read Daru's treatise. Omoi had wondered if he'd lead to a coup, but both his teammates dismissed it. Now, they fear the man had been right and the instability caused by a successful or failed overthrow would cause Kiribi's and Yugito's return to be further delayed. But like everyone else, they could only watch as if they were stuck to the ground. A was getting bored with batting Darui around. With his lightning armor active, the traitor posed no threat. He was bloodied but not yet broken. A walked toward his victim, knowing exactly how he wanted to end this. He lifted Darui up, preparing for a Liger bomb when the inexplicable happened. That sense of invincibility left him. His strength decreased. His lightning armor deactivated. He had no time to ponder why to understand what was happening to his chakra system as Darui ruthlessly eye-gouged him. On instinct, A dropped Darui, raising his hands to cover his eyes. He was blinded and in blinding pain. Darui took advantage of the distraction, performing his first ninjutsu of the fight. All witnessed as the famed lightning style, Black Panthers, was unleashed on a near-defenseless A. The Raikage let out a primal scream as the Raiten entered his system, leaving smoke behind as it ended. You're so arrogant you haven't even wondered why no Anbu, no Junin has stepped in to stop this, Darui said, and he was right. A hadn't considered why his elite ninja hadn't detained his opponent. We can all see it, A. See how your war ends. We have no allies, we have no Jinchuriki, and this war has no point. I tried to show you, but your dull ass wouldn't listen. A stopped, still in great pain. Don't have to. A's declaration he didn't have to listen stopped by Darui delivering his killing blow. The storm style, laser circus beams pierced each of A's major organs and his brain. Darui knew there could be no doubt, no chance of A's survival. He turned to the assembled masses, attempting to appear stronger than he currently felt. Times would be tough, but they needed to know, ultimately, they would be all right. A's war likely cannot be avoided. In his attempt to ambush Konoha, we lost 100 senior ninja and look weak in the eyes of the other villages. This is no longer a war of conquest but one to save face, to show all that Kumo is more than one man's ambition. That we are strong. That we are enduring. That we are the storm. Darui shouted. The crowd cheered. When it petered out, Darui continued. I cannot promise you times will be easy, they will not. But every decision I make will be for the betterment of Kumo. We will get through these dark times. We will get our guardians back and we will come out of this stronger than ever before. Kumo's best days are ahead of us, not behind us. As your godime, that is my vow to each of you. As the crowds chanted his name, Darui walked toward the recently arrived Shi, leaning on his friend for support. I'm glad your chakra suppression poison worked. It would have been dull otherwise. You'd be dead, Shi observed. What sounds duller than death? Darui asked. I don't know, but we are in for interesting times. You ready? I have no choice but to be, was Daru's answer. Strongest shinobi since the Shodai, Shikamaru observed without prompt, Shino nodding in agreement. Single-handedly revolutionizing chakra manipulation, the Nara continued. Excellent swordsman and taijutsu practitioner, too, Shino added, to really rub salt in the wound. All this hard work just to punch an old man in the face? Shikamaru asked, causing Naruto's eye to twitch. Elder abuse is frowned upon, Naruto, said Shino, causing Naruto to finally respond. I hate you both so very much, the Uzumaki said, head under a depression cloud. He didn't want to be here, at the Chunin Stadium. He certainly didn't want to be here to spar the old man, but apparently, when summons have conflict, their summoners are expected to settle matters. Naruto didn't personally feel there was much to settle. Bast does as she pleases, no one was going to stop her unless they had the power to do so, which Enma didn't. But she also didn't kill anyone, so no harm no foul. The Monkey King and the former Hokage disagreed. Well, Enma did. Hiruzen thought them fighting would be a great way for them to resolve their issues. Naruto saw the logic. As much as he didn't like it, he knew that sometimes you just had to cross fists to hash out your differences and then talk later. Still, Naruto had no interest in it. He processed and resolved the hate he had for the old man. Even a lot of the hurt was gone. Nothing could change what Hiruzen did, how he chose his vanity at the expense of Naruto. However, that could be gotten over, and while they'd never be close again, they could coexist. No, The oceanic problem that no bridge could cross was that Hiruzen had a deep and sincere hatred for Orochimaru, she had the same, and Naruto had clearly chosen a side. There was simply no relationship to mend with someone that schemed to get his future wife killed or exiled and hunted. But the old man persisted, and even Bast said Naruto should just do it, so here he was. With his asshole teammates, being accused of elder abuse. You know, that geezer could kick both your asses, Naruto observed as he put on his armor, preparing to enter the arena floor. Shino and Shikamaru shared the briefest of glances before Shino said, "You're still about to beat on a grandfather and retiree. Have I mentioned how much I hate you both?" That laughter was the only response to his question, annoyed him even more. Naruto left the changing area and headed to the battleground, Hiruzen and Enma waiting with Jiraiya. It had only been a day since this was decided, and yet, somehow, word had spread and the stadium was full. Once Naruto arrived at Jiraiya's location, he bit his left thumb and slid blood down the summoning tattoo on his arm. Slamming his hand down, Bast appeared in a hunter green and gold trim cloak. "Oh, fight time already?" Bast asked, and Naruto nodded. She turned to walk away, confusing her summoner, who made his confusion known. "Granny, where are you going?" "To take a seat, obviously," she answered. "It is not obvious. Aren't you going to help me here since you caused this?" Naruto asked. "Do you need my help, Naruto-chan?" she asked with a quirked brow. "It'd be nice," her summoner responded. Bast rolled her eyes and continued walking. Naruto put his face in his hands, trying not to yell in frustration. "I guess all relevant parties are here now," Jiraiya started. "This is a fight between summoners, but all Konoha rules and regulations apply. No killing blows, no maiming. Additional stipulations for you, Naruto, are no Biju chakra, no sage mode. No shadow clones, no wood clones, do the hokey pokey before I turn myself around." "Yes, Jiraiya, I already agreed with this." "And no dust release, smartass," Jiraiya said. Thanks to the location, Jiraiya's voice was picked up and broadcast to all in attendance, and those watching on a special feed within the village. The Gama-sanin saw a brief look of fury pass his Gosun's face, which confused him. "No one but you knew I could do that, yet, Jiraiya." "Oh." Jiraiya goofed, "Huh. Yup," Naruto said, popping the P at the end. "How much is this going to cost me?" "Why, Godfather, I appreciate you paying for my wedding," Naruto said, sounding entirely too sincere for Jiraiya's taste. "Half," Jiraiya said, both ignoring that much of the village could hear this. "Okay," Naruto said and watched Jiraiya nod in affirmation. "And then, the other half. You're all class, Godfather. You're a shakedown artist," Jiraiya accused, causing Naruto to laugh for the first time today. Naruto just shrugged and Jiraiya lowered his head. "Ugh. Fight," Jiraiya said, moving out the way. Hiruzen speeds through a sequence of hand signs, unleashing an earth-style, earth flow river toward Naruto, assuming he was unprepared. This was proven wrong when Naruto finished his own hand signs, the technique stopping the mud river in its tracks, turning it back to its solid state. "Earth-style, quick hardening," Naruto said. "If an E-rank jutsu I created to keep my sandals clean can stop you, then maybe we should call this off." Hiruzen ignored his grandson and performed another sequence of hand signs, inhaling deeply and exhaling a stream of flames. The fire-style, dragon flame bomb blazed toward Naruto, who had also been preparing his own jutsu. Having inhaled a beat after Hiruzen and unleashed his counter a moment later, the wind-style, backdraft spear was a vacuum manipulation jutsu meant to counter fire technique specifically. As the flame is deprived of oxygen, it follows Naruto's concentrated wind tunnel back to the original caster. Hiruzen and Enma rolled out of the backlash, neither receiving any burns, and continued moving in opposite directions. It was obvious to Naruto what they were attempting, so to stall their tactic he flowed through more hand signs and targeted Hiruzen. The lava-style, dragon missile bombardment formed from the ground with a dragon's head of lava emerging from it and then spitting dozens of projectiles of burning rock. Not even a mud wall of Hiruzen's level could withstand the impact, and he had to take evasive action. Knowing the old man was distracted, Naruto sped toward Enma. Enma didn't have time to be shocked by Naruto appearing before him, the uppercut to his midsection took all of his attention. The second one was less considered but no less felt, lifting the chief summons off his feet. To end the indignity he was grabbed by his tail and thrown toward Hiruzen as if he were nothing but an annoyance. The Monkey King managed to land on his feet after a few rolls to distribute the force of his impact and deftly avoiding any pools of lava left over from Naruto's diversionary tactic. Are you okay, Enma? Hiruzen asked while never taking his eyes off Naruto. The boy is strong, Enma responded, still reeling from the exchange. Hiruzen provided nothing in return. Many in the crowd were reeling from the pre-fight revelations and the first exchange. Whispers speculating who the honorable son could be getting married toward with him being able to use the famed dust release of the Neon Sandaime Chushikage. Ino, ever the gossip, wanted to extract information out of Shikamaru, Shino and he having joined the rookies in the stands, only to be met with surprise. You don't know? Shikamaru asked. He honestly hadn't thought it a secret, but he sometimes forgot Team Kunai often acted in a separate world. Most people didn't know what the hell they got up to and they all preferred it that way. Of course I didn't know, Ino said. He hasn't even been back that long. Who snatched him up? You sound almost disappointed, Shika observed. Ino shrugged while saying, I'm not looking to settle down or anything, but we could have had some fun. So, who is it? Probably some basic bitch that doesn't challenge him in any way and swoons at the very sight of Naruto-sama, Tenten interjected. Shino's repressed bout of laughter unnerved everyone, only making them more uncomfortable as he lost complete control. Shikamaru soon gave out and joined his teammate. Even Kurenai let a few go. Well, I don't know if I'd called Orochimaru a basic bitch, but you certainly can, Tenten, Shikamaru said, causing the rookies to pale. Wah. Wah, no. The weapons mistress said in disbelief. Backquote. What's with you nerds getting all the hot chicks? Kiba blurted out in mild frustration. While not stated the best, the other rookie shinobi had to agree. Orochimaru scared the shit out of all of them, but she was a certified snack. Temari and Tayuya were both very attractive, and outside of whatever Sasuke was doing with Sakura, none of them were involved with anyone. Extra inch for every 10 IQ points over 130, Shino said dryly as if he were delivering a scientific certainty. 202, Shikamaru added. Wait, that can't be true, Kakashi-sensei. Kiba asked. 210, the Hatake said with an eye smile. His team sweet dropped. Back to the arena floor, Naruto decided to go on the offensive. The lava style, magma river gushed from below the surface, headed straight toward Hiruzen. The Sandaime, remaining remarkably calm for a Yoten technique he'd never seen, flowed through the seals for the water style, wild water wave. The two jutsu met in the middle, instantaneously reacting to each other, battling to see which would have the lasting impact. The Suten jutsu won as it rapidly cooled the lava and generated a great deal of steam. Naruto continued with his next attack, forcing Hiruzen to evade as 6 black as night shuriken launched from the form. The lava style, obsidian shuriken jutsu was just a diversion. Hiruzen ably dipped, ducked and dodged the projectiles, but his path led him directly into a thin streak of blue lightning. Naruto's lightning style, piercing fang hit true, but he was already catching the uppercut coming from underground before he realized he'd dispelled a mud clone. Striking out with a back fist, Naruto dispelled another mud clone. It was now the Uzumaki's turn to evade as one Fuma shuriken because dozens, the Sandaime's shadow shuriken jutsu being deftly utilized on a distracted opponent. Naruto saw what he assumed to be the real Hiruzen's location and swiftly came up with a plan. Instead of moving and falling into a trap, Naruto decided to stand his ground. The crowd collectively gasped as an impromptu forest was grown right before their eyes, for it was one thing to be told he could use the Mokuton, but it was another to witness it. The Fuma shuriken were stopped by the thick and sturdy trees. Naruto retrieved his own shuriken but did not throw it, instead utilizing his koten to make it into a gunbai. Showing his facility with one-handed signs, Naruto performed the fire style, incinerator bullet, and juiced the blistering hot fireball with the wind generated by the swing of the gunbai. Hiruzen created another mud wall, but Naruto would not have the chance to see if it could withstand his combined attack. Enma, again, decided to engage the Uzumaki in taijutsu, likely feeling he'd have an edge in the trees. Beginning with a leg sweep, followed by a roundhouse, Enma was all aggression. He demonstrated what years of experience could net as his attacks wasted no motion nor energy. But he could not break through the defenses of his much younger opponent. If not outright blocked, his attacks were parried or dodged. Even as they moved through the trees, Enma found his attacks negated. Getting frustrated, Enma lashed out with a straight right. Naruto grabbed the attacking arm and brought his leg over it, kicking Enma twice with his forward and backward motion. Naruto then pulled the Monkey King into a shattering left hook that sent the summons hurtling toward the ground. Instead of the hard impact he expected, he was caught by Hiruzen. "I have the high ground, old man. You wanna concede?" Naruto asked from his lofty perch. As the crowd watched the mastery-level display of ninjutsu, one attendee was vocally more appreciative than others. "Yay, Cubby, kick that monkey's ass," Bast yelled, spilling some of her popcorn. Orochimaru and Tsunade laughed at the exuberant summons as she cheered on her summoner. "Enjoying yourself, Bast-sama?" Tsunade asked, knowingly. "Of course. And like I told Naruto-chan's mate, you don't have to bother with that Sama stuff. I'll keep that in mind. What about you, Orochi? You could almost say this fight is about you, if you so wished," Tsunade finished with a teasing tone. Orochi rolled her eyes but said nothing in response, more interested in seeing if Hiruzen could force Naruto to show something new. Tsunade, taking Orochi's silence as a challenge, up the ante. "Or can you not even envision a competition for your hand? I mean, who could possibly compete? True love is like that, ya no." "You sound like an idiot, and if Koharu were here she'd agree with me," Orochi spat. "PFF'd, she'd side with me. Don't be embarrassed, Orochi-chan. Love is wonderful, right Bast?" "Sure is. I'm thinking of taking another lover myself. Gave the last one a heart attack. I put it on him so good." "That's not unimpressive," Orochi said as even she knew game recognized game. Elsewhere in the stands sat a conflicted Genin. Konohamaru had no idea why his grandfather requested he go to the boss's house, but once there he did not like where things went. He was an exuberant and optimistic boy, but he was also smart. He knew he was one of the things that kept Naruto Oyabun from lashing out at his grandfather, and he could also tell he had no interest in this. He hoped his grandfather didn't push Oyabun too far, he really just wanted this over. "I believe you underestimate me," Hiruzen answered back to Naruto's call to surrender, and Asuma frowned. He understood what his old man wanted, but this was likely several years and 3 schemes too late. But, as was his way, the former Hokage couldn't be reasoned with. Add Enma calling for blood, there was just simply no way he'd seek an alternate solution. Asuma had his share of issues with his father, but he didn't want to see him hurt. He also knew if Naruto got hurt, Kurenai would be leading the calls for blood. The bearded Junin refused to think about what Orochimaru might do. Reflex, habit, trained response. Whatever one may deem it, Naruto's lungs expanded as they had numerous times before, this time filled with noxious gas until he was ready to unleash his next jutsu. The ninja art, miasma, was as advertised. A thick, heavy fog of poison gas was sprayed down below the trees, toward Hiruzen. Knowing what the color of the chakra gas meant, even if he wasn't used to the specific utilization, Hiruzen performed the Earth-style, Earth Rampart. The mountainous wall was intended to bring Hiruzen to Naruto's level, but the Uzumaki would have none of it. Several of his high-pressure water-style, water lances carved through the rock, destabilizing it. Both Hiruzen and Enma fell toward the fog, disappearing from view. The August shinobi knew to hold his breath, though he assumed the poison gas wasn't lethal, it would still be a detriment. He signaled to Enma and the summons transformed to his legendary staff form, spinning over to Hiruzen. Catching his longtime partner, Hiruzen started several mighty swings as the gusts cleared the miasma. Now with some breathing room, Hiruzen took in the air and used a Kaiten jutsu to burn away the rest of the gas. Hiruzen saw the tri-pronged kunai land beside him. His mind told him to move, but his arms gained a sudden amount of weight and his legs lost their sturdiness. His reflexes slowed, his mind was still fast enough to realize the miasma acted as a contact poison, holding his breath hadn't saved him. Soon, he found himself wrapped in a tree, Naruto emerging out of it. He knew it was a genjutsu, but Jiraiya stepped in before he could begin to counter it. Having his chakra disrupted a moment later, he saw he was actually wrapped in a tree. He'd just experienced Naruto's ninja art, true tree binding death. The crowd cheered for the combatants, but Hiruzen felt empty. The battle hadn't been fierce enough to resolve things. He felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Naruto standing behind him. "That was a better fight than Jiraiya normally gives me. You've still got some kick, old man," Naruto complimented. "More than you might realize. Give me a rematch and I might surprise you," Hiruzen said. "I'm sorry, Naruto, for everything," the unspoken meaning. Naruto looked away for a brief moment as if unsure. We'll have to see, old man. No promises, Naruto said. I know, but that's not enough, Naruto expressed subtextually. Hiruzen nodded and Naruto returned to play up his win for the crowd. Hiruzen knew if he wanted any semblance of a relationship with his former grandson, he had to come to a resolution with Orochimaru. I'll do it alone, Naruto announced. All in the Hokage's office wanted to argue against it but were silenced by Naruto's next words. None of you truly know what it's like to have to earn your humanity in the eyes of others. True, you all have reputations because of what you've done but not for what you are. Finding those people that see you, really see you, takes the sting out of the constant rejection. It makes the air breathable, just a little bit. Kirby and Yugito should hear this from someone like them, he explained but said no more as he exited. Now, the three Sannin, the Sandaime and his two advisors sat in the office, most of them drinking. A's death felt like a monumental shift and yet, possibly, changed nothing. Kumo may still, eventually, declare war as a show of strength. Iwa will likely side with them as Kumo would give greater concessions. Kiri was still unknown and Suna would stand with Konoha. Things would get tense. The war before the war would start soon as the various Anbu factions waged their campaigns. It would bubble over into skirmishes, missions just accidentally overlapping more than they had in a decade. Then, one significant act, one valuable piece would be lost and war would begin. Wars are neither won nor lost but endured, regretted and repeated. Tobirama Sensei said that to me a week before he sacrificed himself, Hiruzen said. He'd thought he'd gotten away, that by neutralizing the Akatsuki he'd never have to truly contemplate war again. The room fell silent once more but there was no denying this had become a war council. I know we were all thinking it and waiting for Naruto to leave so we can discuss it frankly, what is to be done with the Jinchuriki. They were here to keep A in line but that's moot, Homura stated. Extract the Biju, that'll be the cost for Kumo's attempt on Tsunade's life and the failed invasion, Koharu answered. Ho ho ho, extract them, she says, Jiraiya responded in mock joviality. If it were easy, every village would do it and we'd just stop making Jinchuriki. You have two people who could potentially do that and I feel confident in saying neither of us will reseal a Biju into a tea kettle, let alone another person. Jiraiya knew he was on dangerous ground. It was unwise to tell the Hokage what he would and wouldn't do but Naruto wasn't the only one that learned on their training trip. He understood why Minato did what he did but the cost was high, maybe too high, to do a simple tactic. Now is not the time to be soft, Homura said, ignoring Jiraiya's statement about the skill required. If Naruto-kun refuses then the matter is settled to my mind. Orochi spoke and the unspoken threat was received. That means killing him is out as the Biju would reform here and we can't assume they'll be as amiable as the Kyuubi was. There's also the problem of you only having 5 active duty ninja that could kill Kirby and one of them, Guy, wouldn't survive the fight, Jiraiya pointed out. He was confident he could bout likely not without great injury. We can't just be reactive, not this time, Koharu argued. She didn't mean to be critical of Hiruzen but Konoha had held its hand out in friendship to be spurned time and time again, it was enough. I agree, Tsunade said. We'll enter into negotiations with Kumo's Godime, Darui-san. While that's happening, we go hard at Iwa. I'll have Shikaku draw up a list of targets, I want them set back a decade. Only way that happens is if, Hiruzen didn't finish the statement. No, Tsunade. Intel shows Darui was in Iwa before the coup. Onoki clearly backed his play if not suggested it. His removal is mission critical. Maybe the next generation can do better, either way, Onoki goes. Even if you get a list of necessary targets, who would you send? All Anbu teams will be dedicated to their own affairs and we can't send an invasion force without Onoki noticing, Homura pointed out. Team Kakashi, Kurenai, and Asuma. They will be given the list and ordered to stay behind enemy lines until the job is done. They'll have frontline combatants, intelligence gatherers, trackers, assassins, and 3 members that manage to pull a job on the Sannin and get away without a trace. The Kazekage will be sending a small unit of his own and we'll iron out the details when he arrives. Even if they are successful, that wouldn't force Onoki to leave the village, Koharu stated. Hiruzen immediately frowned, the full plan of Tsunade's finally dawning on him. But the decimation of a large attack force he will no doubt send when he receives word of Konoha teams operating right under his nose may. That decimation not just led by but possibly defeated at the hands exclusively of Minato's only son. Onoki will be incensed. You ask too much of him, Tsunade. It's no different than when you had us fight Hanzo, the Godine calmly explained. There were 3 of you, Hiruzen retorted just short of yelling. 3 of you, each an adult and having been a ninja for well over a decade. Trained by me personally. And you still failed. I don't have to justify my decisions to you, Tsunade said, frostily, as she glared at her sensei. If you do this then don't plan on naming Naruto your successor. No sitting cage beside Gaara will trust him and Iwa will hate him more than they ever hated Minato. The cycle will just begin anew. Then no more Iwa is the solution. Maybe no more Kumo. Orochi offered in all seriousness. Just because these villages do exist doesn't mean they must continue to do so. If Tsunade's plan is such a bad one then I say why not eradicate Iwa? I won't be pregnant forever, I'll raise them to the ground. No mercy, no survivors. Just kill everyone that opposes you. If you ever wonder why I never named you as my successor, remember this conversation. I don't need any more examples of your cowardice, sensei, I have enough to last several lifetimes. Hiruzen had been so busy admonishing her ruthlessness, the true revelation of her words took a minute to sink in. No, he exclaimed. Kikuku, sorry, can't coerce me into getting rid of this one and I really recommend you don't try. The Sandaime was stunned speechless. It's not the topic at hand so if you could focus, Tsunade admonished. Hiruzen nodded. Orochi simply sat in silence but never lost her smile. You're lying, accused Yugito while Kiribi sat in silence. A Sama killed by Darui in a coup. Who could possibly believe that? I'm sorry I'm not, Naruto replied. The older woman scoffed, it being the superior reaction to losing it in front of the enemy. You're sorry. Why? You wanted a Sama dead, that's the reason we're here in the first place. Why are you pretending to care? Yugito shook as she spoke to her fellow container, the core of her being wanting to strike him, kill him. This was his fault. Kind words and soft tones wouldn't change that, wouldn't change anything. This wouldn't have happened if they were there, Darui would have never even considered it. But they weren't there, they were here and she blamed one person in particular for that. Because I know what it is to lose someone that accepted you, made you feel normal. What could you know? You're the son of the Yondaime, you have no idea what it is to earn acceptance, Yugito insisted. In other circumstances, such presumption would have angered Naruto and he felt himself become a little hot at her ignorance but he just couldn't bring himself to correct her. It was an argument that would go nowhere. She didn't really care what Naruto's childhood was like, it wasn't the point. She was in pain and wanted an outlet for it, someone to blame and fight. Then tell me, Naruto suggested. Yugito went wide-eyed at the soft-spoken words. Tell me what it was like, I'll listen. Yugito began to speak but stopped herself, the Jinchuriki of the Nibi balled up her fists and took a deep breath. I won't let you use my past against me, Uzumaki, she stated before leaving their temporary home. It was just Kiribi and Naruto, the Kumo ninja's sunglasses making his face unreadable. The offer still stands, Kiribi-san. Or I can leave. When the old man passed, Big Bro was brought low and lost his spark. Selected to lead, had to play his part. Tried to stop Ato's flow but I float and sting like a pro. Good man doing bad things. And now he's in the throes of what death holds. A past from a present, forever froze as death is cold. But alive in memories, in the stories I'll tell. Adventures of the AB unbeatable combo, stuff of fairy tales. The killer's flows tight so I'll spit it fairly well. The brave Ato and unruly A the bold. Be at peace, bro, rest your soul. I'll say my piece until it's time to go. Fool, ya, feel me, Mr. 9. An interesting question, Naruto thought because he'd never claimed to literally understand Kiribi's raps but for some reason he always felt like he understood the intention. It was why he could honestly say, yay, I feel you. She just doesn't know when enough is enough, Hiruzen said. He'd left the meeting disturbed, clear to all present and it was Jiraiya who followed after him. Now alone, and nearing the Sarutobi compound, Hiruzen started to vent. To get pregnant, to trap Naruto. Were her fangs not in deep enough? She'd involve an innocent child again. What would Minato think? He doesn't get a vote so it doesn't matter, Jiraiya said. The look of offense and shock didn't surprise him but if his sensei was so concerned about what Minato thought Naruto would have had a vastly different life. It had long been time to deal with things as they were. Jiraiya. You need to stop, sensei. You think you can reconcile with Naruto while still hating Orochi and you can't. However justified you feel in doing so, they are a family. Hell, they are getting married in a month. And you've done nothing to discourage it. In fact, you're actually paying for it. Of course I'm paying for it. I always was, I'm the boy's godfather. As far as discouraging it, he's not some child that will just blindly obey anyone. If I pushed, it'd eventually end up in a fight and he'd do what he was going to do anyway. I'm not being laid up in the hospital for an empty gesture. But you push the kid enough to make him fight you seriously and see how that goes. Hiruzen bristled slightly. Even in his advanced age he wasn't accustomed to not meriting someone's full effort in a fight. It was a blow to his pride. He ignored it to continue his point. What kind of relationship do you think they have? Is Naruto constantly compromising himself to manage her, to not lose her interest? Even if he could, no child should be expected to do that. Children need love, patience, and guidance, things she's incapable of giving. What happens if she deems the child a disappointment and decides a few experiments will fix what he or she may be lacking? You're not exactly the shining example of healthy relationships, sensei. As far as the rest of it, your concerns are mostly about your inability to see Orochi and Naruto as anything more than the images you froze in your mind. He isn't some weak, easily manipulated boy. She's not the embodiment of evil. Kikuku, why thank you, Jiraiya, said the disembodied voice. Shouldn't you be anywhere else but here? Jiraiya asked in slight frustration. These two just loved tearing strips off each other, and while the Cold War had de-escalated it only needed a little push to ramp back up. Orochi scoffed, I'm just a clone so don't worry, I didn't come to cause any problems. What do you want? Hiruzen asked. Not to get your take on my potential maternal skills. If I cared or valued you at all I might be hurt, sensei. Can you just say your piece? I have things to do, Jiraiya requested. Of course. I simply came to inform sensei that I'm done. Done? Hiruzen asked. Kikuku, yes, done. The game isn't even fun anymore, too much like kicking a defenseless, wrinkled, old man. You said stupid twice, Jiraiya pointed out. He's stupid twice over, Orochi replied. So, if you have some grand scheme it won't work. If you are waiting on me to do something, I'm not. I won and I'm going out on top. No one believes that and I certainly won't be lulled by your false promises, Hiruzen declared. She couldn't give up her games as it was a fundamental part of her psychology and the dynamic. Hiruzen felt something churn at her genuine laughter, bristling at being made a joke. Fine, sensei, you stay hypervigilant and I'll live my life as you waste what little remains of your own. What a fitting end, dying a bitter, old fool, she said between laughs. Having relayed her message, the clone dispelled. Jiraiya looked toward his former teacher and saw the man looking defeated and hollow. It confused him, which must have been obvious when Hiruzen met his gaze. She wasn't supposed to win. She doesn't get to win, the elderly man stated. I don't see why not or why you'd be opposed to it. Her win has her working for the protection and embitterment of the village. It's basically the wall of fire, that which you claim she trampled on. If you value it so highly then you should be pleased with this outcome. If not, you just look obsessed with a woman you rejected but somehow believed she'd never move on. I am no such thing, Hiruzen swiftly refuted. To accuse him of such a prurient motivation was beyond offensive. I've seen it before. You'd be in good company, as far as scumbag behavior goes. Maybe I'm wrong but it certainly appears like you need to be the center of her world and hate that you aren't. It's not a good look, sensei. The two men continued to walk in silence, one fuming over his student's words and the other hoping he was finally heard. The real Orochi had no outward reaction when she received her memories, too content to be bothered by her sensei's continued suspicions. She currently laid on the couch in the arms of her future husband, something they liked to do when they had the compound to themselves. With Karen at the hospital and Tayuya with the other Sound 5 members, the Uzumaki Manor was empty and the pair would enjoy it while they could. This, it may surprise many to know, was not something Naruto requested or initiated but was started by Orochi herself, though she would claim it was simply an experiment. Cuddled up and quite comfortable, Naruto spared a glance to the wall-mounted clock. It was still early yet, but they should probably settle on plans before it got too late. Orochi-chan, you want to stay in tonight or you feel like going out? He asked. No strong preference either way. Same. I could go for some dango, they heard a voice call out and Naruto groaned. He liked Anko, he really did, but she was a weirdo that basically lived with him now even though she had a place and was damn near 30 years old. Then go get dango, no one is stopping you, Naruto replied. He heard her enter the room and take a seat on their coffee table, hand held out and looking expectantly at Naruto. I could use some Ryo, Naru papa, Anko spoke as if some were the very embodiment of innocence. You're a special Junin, how are you always broke? Naruto asked. He ignored the name, the lunatic deciding it was fitting since he was marrying her sensei. It contained zero logic, but if he rose to the provocation she'd never stop. As far as the loan, he assumed Anko was smoking the finest of drugs. She made more than him being a senior at their mutual rank and he made good money. She didn't need his money and for sure wasn't getting it. Don't be like that, I do okay but I don't have clan account money. Just slide some Ryo over to Anko and I'll get out of your hair. Naruto looked down to his lover but saw she was enjoying this and had no plans of intervening. He rolled his eyes at her smile, everyone was feigning innocence it seemed. No, there's a kitchen full of food, a garden and the most varied orchard ever seen. Just eat something here, besides you need some variety in your diet. Anko rolled her eyes, she didn't only eat dango but it was her favorite and he could have already returned to his cuddles if he'd simply fork over some coin. I don't want variety, I want dango. Then go get some, no one is stopping you. Money please. Kikuku, I could go for some grilled eel, Orochi added. Fine, let me, but I don't want to leave. Naruto just buried his head into the crook of her neck while muttering about Shikamaru being right. She felt when he resigned himself to his fate, trying her best not to laugh. I'm going to go get everything I need to make all this here but you, Anko-chan, are going to help me. If I have to bribe you with dango I'm not rolling all those things out by myself. Wait, you know how to make dango, don't you? Naruto asked in disbelief, it wasn't exactly hard. Of course not, I buy the dango. I eat the dango. Naruto looked down to Orochi and asked, how attached to her are you really? Very, the white snake answered. Troublesome. Well, I'm off, Naruto proclaimed and gave Orochi a peck. Anko whopped at the sight and felt Naruto tap her thigh as he told her, shut it, you, as if embarrassed. It took no time for Naruto to slip his sandals on and be out the door. Anko's laughter ended when she was suspended in the air out of reach of everything and with no way to get down. What the shit is this? It seems Naruto-kun was having some fun with Jiten, Anko-chan, Orochimaru calmly explained as she reached for a nearby book. Aren't you going to help me out here, sensei? Anko asked as she hung helplessly in the air. Orochi looked at Anko from over the top of her book dryly and asked, why would I do that? Anko looked at her as if the answer was obvious. The snake Sanin laughed in response. Maybe the next time you find us cuddled on the couch you'll have the good sense to go do something else. Treat this as a teachable moment, Or, come on, sensei. Anko exclaimed, limbs swinging aimlessly in the air. She looked like a baby throwing a tantrum which only made Orochi laugh even harder. Hello, son, Minato greeted with sincere warmth. Naruto looked around, confused as to where he was. It appeared to be a nice but humble apartment, his father sitting in a blue chair that matched the couch he was lying on. Is this a dream? Naruto asked in confusion. Bagheera said the elixir he drank would help resolve his internal dilemmas but he wasn't sure a dream would do it. No, not a dream. It appears your summons have an interesting connection to the Pure Land but I wouldn't claim to understand it perfectly. Sure beats the Shinigami's stomach. Naruto popped up and looked at his father, the fourth Hokage, it all felt surreal. He had so many questions, so much he wanted to know. He didn't know how long he'd be here, it was hard to organize his thoughts. He felt his chest tighten as his thoughts raced, there was too much to process and likely very little time. Naruto felt an arm on his shoulder, Minato having closed the distance between them in a blink. Just breathe, son. Just breathe. Naruto nodded and slowly did just that. Minato smiled when he saw his only child start to relax. When Naruto collected himself he asked the question he'd longed to know since he was a child. Why? Why him? Why use the Reaper death seal? Why sacrifice himself? When the QB was released from your mother, even after everything I did to prevent it, when I learned it was Madara Uchiha that was responsible, I took it as a sign. The world would need someone with great power to combat such a threat, greater than any of the Hokage, and if you could harness the QB's strength, that person could be you. I believed you were the child Jiraiya had spoken of. If you couldn't stop Madara, what prevented him from coming to get me when I was a child? You put a target on my back. What kind of parent does that? Not a very good one, Minato joked, but in my defense, I'd only been one for a few minutes. Seeing his humor wasn't landing, Minato changed his approach. I knew your life would be filled with hardship because of your status. I didn't think Hiruzen would allow Danzo to do what he did nor steal from your inheritance. I just believed you'd be able to endure those challenges and become something special. Suffering doesn't make you special, it just makes you suffer. I was alone and you did that to me. You sent me to hell and you think you did a good and noble thing. You're just like Jiraiya and the old man. You talk a good game, but ultimately you didn't want Konoha to not have a Jinchuriki and sacrificed your kid in the process. He was angry with and tired of people who grand ideologies leaving the work to others. Not just Jiraiya and Hiruzen but Ito as well. Minato looked down in shame. He'd been so sure of his actions, he always was, as it was the trait that allowed him to press forward. But seeing Naruto's pain, hearing the resentment in his voice hurt more than the QB's claws ever could. However, there was one thing Naruto was wrong about and Minato needed him to know. I didn't seal half of the QB in you for the village. Your mother hated being a Jinchuriki. She wasn't told what was going to happen to her until well after she'd arrived. She never fully forgave Mito nor Hiruzen for that, for taking her away from her family for a village that wasn't her own, even if it did save her life. No, I didn't do that for the village. I sincerely believed, QB or not, you were to be the child of prophecy, and I thought the QB would help with your trials. The QB being released was a cataclysm, there's no other way to describe it, and I didn't think any ninja could fight someone that could unleash that upon the world without a lot of help. I made many assumptions. I thought Jiraiya and Kakashi would be a regular presence in your life. I thought Hiruzen's will of fire would extend fully to my son without exception. I thought so many things that turned out not to be true. I am truly sorry, Naruto. Sorry that my belief wasn't the wind beneath your wings but a boulder on your back. Sorry for the pain I caused you. And I'm so sorry that you see my last acts as me being a Hokage instead of a father. So much can be blamed on the chaos of the night, of knowing Kushina was going to die and having failed to protect her, but it wasn't right to put so much weight on you, especially when I wasn't there to help you manage it. I still believe in you. In you, son. But I won't hold you to an unfair expectation, I won't burden you with that prophecy. No matter what you do from here on, I'll always love you. I'll only ask that you be the best man you can be, and when you have a child, be a better parent to them than I was to you. Naruto stared at his father with wide, watery eyes. He didn't know what to say. While he hadn't lied, some part of his rant was misplaced anger at recent events, but his dad had apologized. For others, there was always an excuse, and while his father laid out his thinking, it didn't feel like he expected Naruto to forgive him on his justifications but understand why he did what he did. He felt validated in a way he hadn't previously, seen in a way he hadn't before. He felt lighter, he felt good. I guess I can forgive you, just don't seal anything else into me, Naruto joked, but his laugh sounded hoarse. I'll try, Minato promised. The two would talk for what felt like hours, from Fuinjutsu theory to childhood misadventures or anything else they could think of, and while the time together was much too short, Naruto healed a part of himself he hadn't known was broken. Even Minato's final words were a much-needed salve to the adolescent Jinchuriki. If you should ever start to doubt yourself, feel you've lost your path, just know your mother and I are rooting for you, so keep pressing, Naruto. Your potential is so much greater than you realize, it would be a shame to stall now. When you think you're hit a wall, go harder. When you think you've run out of road, go further. Only then will you truly know what kind of ninja you want to be. Naruto-kun. The sound of Orochi's voice pulled Naruto from his memory. He was brought back to the grotto within the land of the Panthers. He smiled at his future wife, their wedding just a day away. The slight breezy within the cave blew at her wraparound skirt, her matching purple halter top revealing just the slightest baby bump. Where did you go? She asked. Just remembering when I met my father, something that should have been impossible given he was trapped in the Shinigami's stomach. Unless someone freed him. You wouldn't happen to have any theories on that, would you? Don't be coy, Naruto-kun. Yes, I freed him by using the correct mask in the temple. I used someone slated for execution anyway, so no innocents were harmed. Naruto wrapped his arms around Orochimaru, looking into her citrine eyes. Thank you. We met at just the right time. Thank you for making it possible. Anything for you, she said as she wrapped her arms around him. Naruto returned the gesture, his body moving without conscious thought. You just can't keep your hands off her, Naruto-chan. Should we expect several new summoners in the near future? Bast posed, having entered the grotto. Naruto rolled his eyes at the elder of the Panthers. He suspected it and was proven right, there were no sacred rituals. Bast had lied. He didn't mind, they had thrown Orochi and him a very enjoyable party, but she could have just said that. We're not really thinking past the one on the way, Granny. That is wise, Bagheera stated. Are you ready to return to Konoha? He asked of the young man he'd helped raise. Yay, this has been great, but the others have something planned for us tonight, so we have to get back. Kikuku, you don't sound excited, Naruto-kun. I'm not. If it were just Shika and Shino, I'd be beyond happy, but having the entire teams of my generation there, Naruto relayed. He understood the politics of it, so he didn't complain, but they weren't his friends. Such are the burdens of seeking the hat. I'm sure it'll be fine. Naruto didn't respond but nodded to Bagheera, who returned him to the village. The couple entered their home, immediately being alerted to a commotion in the back. It appears your party is already underway, Orochi said. Naruto grimaced but nodded. You don't have too much fun tonight, he said jokingly. I think I'll manage, Orochi supplied, dryly. Now, stop stalling and go greet your guests. I'll depart when my bodyguards arrive. She sounded so sarcastic at the mention of the sound 5, not that they weren't capable, but she saw it as farcical that she needed protection. While Naruto had the utmost belief in her abilities, he vehemently disagreed but wouldn't voice it if she were allowing them to tail her anyway. A customary kiss goodbye and he went to the back of the manor. Naruto. Several people shouted. He was the last to arrive, much to his embarrassment. The Uzumaki apologized but all waved him off. Choji was manning the grill and Naruto resolved to do something nice for him while also hosting an event where the Akamaki didn't cook. He made his rounds to all but gave a little more time to a special guest. Kazekage-sama, what are you doing among this collection of scoundrels and reprobates? Naruto asked as he shook his fellow Jinchuriki's hand. I'm slumming it for the night, Gaara replied in a perfect deadpan. I guess I shouldn't find it too surprising, you were around Kankuro a lot. Oi, Kankuro shouted in mock offense but was ignored by the containers. Thanks for coming out tonight, Gaara. I won't let anything that could tarnish your standing go down, so relax and enjoy. Naruto. Jiraiya called to get his Gosun's attention. Once he tossed him a bottle of sake as he made his approach. Now, listen, I got Minato good and sauce during his bachelor party and I won't break tradition, so be prepared because you're drinking with the Toad Sage tonight. Naruto took a swing from the bottle to placate Jiraiya. Maybe he was being uptight for no reason. He took another drink and decided to relax. Elsewhere, Orochi had arrived at her own party, a local spar, and was instantly assaulted with a tiara and a sash that said bride. If Koharu hadn't been insistent that it was tradition, she'd burn both items. The ladies of her party included the usual members of the Kunoichi gatherings plus Taiya and Karen. Thankfully, Tsunade didn't have any insipid games planned, so Orochi could enjoy her mani-pedi in relative peace. Or she had been before Tsunade called for everyone's attention. Listen up, everyone. As you know, we are here to celebrate Orochi-chan's last night of singledom, though I doubt she has much attachment to it. Yours was not a straight nor easy road. Mistakes were made, by you and others, but you found your way back. And now look at you, future wife and mother. I'm so happy for you, truly. And with that being said, I just want you to know a few things. You're my sister Orochi-chan and I love you. Keep that in mind because when your little one gets here I'm spoiling 'em rotten. And you'll have to forgive me because we're sisters, so you have to love me back, ha ha. A round of cheers were heard when Tsunade finished her speech. Orochi mouthed a silent thank you to her best friend. Normally, she'd be repelled by such a show of emotion, but she could make an exception for Tsunade, for her sister. Hours later the party's end and Tsunade was walking with Orochi back to the Senju compound. So, I didn't have a good time to tell you this, but something came in while you and Naruto were away, Tsunade started. Onoki sent through a treaty proposal, agreement of mutual defense. That's not worth the paper it was written on, Orochi said. I agree, but we're boxed in. If I let the preemptive strikes continue, then Konoha looks bad and it gives Iwa and Kumo justification to come at us for provoking war. Let them. With Suna and Oto we have the clear advantage. Just crush them and be done with it, we'll earn the contracts back. Maybe, you're more than likely right. But, I don't know, maybe there is a way to flip this, make it so Onoki has to respect the agreement and get Kumo to negotiate a real peace treaty. Either way, you two get to go on a real honeymoon now, so that's a plus. Tsunade, don't let what you hope happens blind you to what needs to happen, was Orochi's only warning. Soon the two arrived and settled in for the night. The morning came fast, as there was a flurry of activity around the village for the wedding of the Snake Sannin and the honorable son and head of the Uzumaki clan. But even with the frenzy, it was worth it. Orochi opted for a traditional look, hair done up in a bun and adorned by purple pansies. Her red Iro Uchikake was decorated with purple and gold snakes as well as several floral patterns. Naruto opted for the traditional wedding attire but wrangled his spikes into a single high ponytail. The two exchanged vows before family, friends, and acquaintances and then moved on to the reception. It was a lovely and memorable day for the couple and they departed with a host of well wishes as Naruto teleported them to their destination in Moon Country. The pair couldn't know that there had been a plan to make the day memorable for the wrong reasons. 20,000 Iwa and Kumo ninja would have marched on Fire Country, overwhelming the border defenses. The ploy meant to force Naruto to confront the massive army with whatever backup he could have cobbled together. Back in the village, Han and Roshi were meant to cause wide-scale damage, potentially kill some high-ranking ninja and work with Yugito and Kiribi to ruin as much of Konoha as they could before retreating. Onoki sat in his office contemplating the plan he'd delayed. The peace treaty was a farce, but it would prevent the ever-image-conscious Konoha from doing anything rash. He looked to the other occupant in the room. There was no trust between them, just an acknowledgement of mutual interests overlapping, but if this went wrong Onoki wouldn't hesitate to attack. You better hope you're right, Zetsu-san. I am. In just a few months you and I will get everything we want. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.